were the Australian Open tiebreak rules. Final set super tiebreak and scoring system explain the semifinals at the 2026 Australian Open have delivered everything tennis fans crave: elite shot making, emotional momentum swings, and pressure-packed moments under the bright lights of Rod Laver Arena. Carlos Alcaraz is hunting his first Australian Open final as he clashes with Alexander Zverev, a man eager to avenge last year's heartbreak. On the other side of the draw, world number one Jannik Sinner, the two-time defending champion, faces his ultimate Melbourne nemesis, Novak Djokovic, the 10-time Australian Open king. With stakes this high, matches are often decided by the smallest of margins. And when sets stretch to their limits, tie-break rules become crucial, not just for players, but for fans trying to follow every twist of the contest. So how exactly do tie-breaks work at the Australian Open? And what's different about the final set? Let's break it all down. Understanding the basics. How tennis sets are scored in Grand Slam tennis. Including the Australian Open, men's singles matches are played as best of 5 sets, while women's singles are best of 3 sets. To win a set, a player must win 6 games with at least a 2-game advantage. But what happens when neither player can pull away? That's where tie-breaks come into play. When does a tie-break start at the Australian Open? At the Australian Open, a standard tie-break is played when a set reaches 6-6, except for special rules in the final set, explained later. Instead of continuing indefinitely until one player leads by 2 games, the set is settled with a tie-break, an intense, fast-paced mini-game that often produces the most dramatic moments of a match. Standard tie-break rules. How it works at 6. 6 when the score reaches 6-6 in any set before the final set. Players enter a 7-point tiebreak, also known as a traditional tiebreak. Key rules of standard tiebreak. The first player to reach 7 points wins the tiebreak. The winner must lead by at least 2 points, e.g., 7-5, 8-6, 10-8. The player who wins the tiebreak wins the set's 7-6 serving pattern. The player whose turn it is to serve begins with 1 serve after the first point. Serve switches to the opponent for 2 points from then on. Serve alternates every 2 points. Players switch into the court every 6 points. This rotation keeps things fair and ensures neither player gains a long serving advantage, especially important under the pressure of a packed stadium and millions watching worldwide. The final set twist. What happens at 6-6? For years, Grand Slam final sets were famous and sometimes infamous for going on endlessly. Marathon matches stretched deep into the night, testing players' physical limits and wreaking havoc on scheduling. To solve this, the Australian Open introduced a major change in 2019. The final set super tiebreak rule. If the final set reaches 6-6, the Australian Open now uses a 10-point super tiebreak to decide the match. Final set super tiebreak rules. First player to 10 points wins must still win by 2 points. Serving rotates the same way as a standard tie-break. The winner takes the set 7-6 and wins the match. This format balances fairness with drama, allowing matches to conclude decisively while still demanding clutch performance under pressure. Why did the Australian Open introduce the super tiebreak? Before 2019, final sets had no tiebreak, meaning players had to win by 2 clear games, no matter how long it took. While this produced legendary battles, it also led to extreme fatigue and scheduling chaos. The super tiebreak was introduced to protect player health, ensure matches finish at reasonable times, create a consistent and dramatic conclusion, align with a broader push for uniform Grand Slam rules. Today, all 4 Grand Slams use some form of final set tiebreak, though the point totals may differ. Why tie-breaks matter more than ever in matches featuring elite competitors like Alcaraz, Zverev, Sinner, and Djokovic. Tie-breaks often decide everything. At this level, breaking serve is rare, rallies are brutal, and mental strength matters just as much as physical endurance. Point: 1 missed return, 1 double fault, 1 fearless forehand. That's all it takes for a tie-break and an entire match to swing. Final thoughts. Small rules, massive impact. The Australian Open tiebreak system ensures fairness, excitement, and clarity in the sport's most intense moments. Whether it's a classic 7-point breaker or a nerve-shredding 10-point super tiebreak in the final set, These rules turn pressure into spectacle as the 2026 Australian Open semifinals push toward their limits. Don't just watch the score, understand it. Because in Melbourne, every point truly counts.